Wave 2 of the Booster Course Pass DLC for Mario Kart 8 is finally here. And it has definitely been worth the wait. After playing the new tracks and gathering some opinions of my own, I decided I would review these new tracks. Here's how I'm going to review the tracks. I'll be looking at each of these aspects, starting with design, then gameplay, and then the music. I will then give my final rating out of 10. Your opinions may be different to mine, so feel free to comment them down below. Let's jump right into this. Starting with New York Minute. New York Minute is the first track of the Turnip Cup, and acts very similarly to Tokyo Blur, where each lap is a different route. So starting off with design. This track surprised me. I expected a messy looking track, with horrible lights everywhere, and a lack of detail and personality. However, we got the complete opposite. The city looks really nice, the colors look way better than I imagined they would, and overall the city has plenty of detail to look at. From the Yoshis and Toads watching the race, to the skyscrapers and billboards. I had a really fun time exploring different routes every lap. The gameplay is okay. There are a few Goombas to avoid. Parked vehicles act as obstacles. But the scenery definitely helps make the gameplay a more enjoyable experience with colors everywhere. Now where the gameplay is decent, let's take a listen at the music. I haven't played Tour, but the music in these Tour tracks is incredible. It feels very jazzy, whilst fitting right in with the New York aesthetic. I rate New York Minute a 7 out of 10. Up next is Mario Circuit 3. This has definitely been the least hyped track from Wave 2 by the community, however I think this track is pretty underrated. Aesthetic wise, it's very reminiscent of the original versions of this track, but there are new details around the track, including blocks, pipes, and even flags. It's a shame this track didn't get the Snowland treatment, which we will talk about later, but I enjoy that this is one of the only flat tracks in the game. When it comes to the gameplay, I really enjoyed playing this track. The constant turns mean that you'll always be drifting, and is super fun to maneuver around. This is something many of the Mario Kart 8 tracks lack. The shortcut opportunities also allow for players at the back to catch up. Pipes and puddles of oil also return in this version of Mario Circuit 3. Let's listen to the music. It would have been cool to have a full jazz band cover of the song, however I like that it sounds similar to its past variants. It has been remixed however with new percussion, but there's not really much else to say about it. Mario Circuit 3 gets a 5 out of 10. We now enter the land of Kalamari Desert. I can't seem to pronounce Kalamari right. I've never played this track in the past, however I've seen the Tour version and I have to say, they have made an effort to improve this track. Taking a closer look you can see some texture work, which was very absent in Wave 1. I feel like there could be some more detail around the track, however I understand that this is how the other versions of the track look. I really like the lighting that they went for though. You don't see many sunset tracks in Mario Kart 8. Now for the gameplay. Each lap is different. Starting lap 1 in the desert. Lap 2 swaps you over onto the train tracks. And then lap 3 swaps you back onto the desert. Along the train tracks you will see the train going around. This train can block your path, and driving into the train will cause you to spin out. I really like the gameplay of this track as it's not like anything we had in the base game's tracks. And let's let the music speak for itself. I love the mix of Western-styled music and trumpets. Nintendo really know what they are doing when it comes to music, and this is a huge improvement over past versions of this soundtrack. I rate Kalamari Desert a 7 out of 10. This was probably the most wanted track for the Booster Course Pass. And we got it in the second wave. I remember playing this track on the DS, and I really love the design of this version. The neon lights fill the track with color, and look really good with the bloom effects. Like the original version, you can also see the pinballs drop down the track alongside you. You can also spot a huge Waluigi Pinball billboard at the top of the track, and at the bottom is the huge Waluigi cutout, which I love because the head now tilts side to side. The gameplay side of things is just as good. You travel down the bendy pinball machine, with sharp and somewhat challenging turns, whilst getting interrupted by pinballs. Once you reach the bottom it's just as chaotic as ever. Avoiding the parts of the pinball machine and even pinballs, which are pretty deadly. I love how faithful this remake is, and is definitely everything I wanted when we found out it was coming in Wave 2. The music has seen mixed reactions. Some people believe it should have had its own remix, whereas others are fine with it being the Wario Stadium soundtrack. I personally think it's fine with the soundtrack it has, as it already sounds retro and shares the same melody as Waluigi Pinball does anyway. I have to give this track a 9 out of 10. Next up is the Propeller Cup, starting with Sydney Sprint. This is the second city tour track in Wave 2, and is also pretty good. The overall design of the track is more disappointing than the other tracks as it looks way more textureless, with flat colors which look like the Wave 1 tracks. Putting that aside however, this track is full of fun details, like the architecture of the buildings, and exploring Sydney's many landmarks. The design side of things might be a little lackluster, however the gameplay makes up for it. It's a somewhat chill, but entertaining track to drive, taking long turns with Sydney's landmarks peering over in the background. It feels like you really are exploring everything this track has to offer without it feeling too repetitive. And each lap has something new to show you. I also really like the short glider sections. Now the best part of this track has to be the music. I'm in love with Sydney Spring's soundtrack. It's super upbeat and really makes this track enjoyable to play. Sydney Sprint gets an 8 out of 10 from me. Up next is Snowland. There's a lot to say about this track. Out of all the Wave 2 tracks, this one surprised me the most with its entirely new design. Like I mentioned earlier, this track used to be flat but has received an entire overhaul, with many elevations. This track is full of details and textures, whether it's in the snow, or on the road. Nintendo really have put in effort to improve these tracks after the Wave 1 backlash, and I think that's really nice of them to do. The crystals around the track also look amazing, with nice pastel colors. Along the track you will run into penguin obstacles, and you may also see snowmen off to the side of the track. The track is icy so you have less traction, however I found this to be pretty fun with the variety of wide and tight turns. This track got an entire makeover, and it seems to be very welcomed amongst the community. I hope many more future tracks get this treatment, and it's a shame Mario Circuit 3 didn't. Let's listen to the music. Snowland's new remix is really bouncy and feels festive. Another really good soundtrack. Snowland gets a 7 out of 10 from me. In my opinion, Mushroom Gorge is the best track that we have received out of both Wave 1 and 2. It looks beautiful. The design and detail of this track really shocked me. The track's colors are much more warmer than before, and I don't even know where to begin with the details. The track itself has textures, which is a good start. If you look into the distance, the views are just insane. I just can't get over how good this track looks and feels. They really made this track feel special. Along the track you will find plenty of flowers and mushrooms, big and small, and the track now has a few spectators which add even more to the liveliness of this track. The gameplay is as fun as Mushroom Gorge has always been, but I'm a little unsure on how I feel about the mushrooms. It seems that the gap for inputting tricks is huge now, but unlike Sky Garden, the mushrooms bounce you higher and give you more control. Something fans of this track will be happy to know is that both of the shortcuts return, being the mushroom shortcut near the start of the track, and even the gap jump. And yes, I failed the jump, however it has been proven to be possible. And of course up next is the music. The music is very similar to the Wii version, but now with improved percussion, and what sounds like guitars replacing some of the digital sounds. This remix of the soundtrack feels way more lively, which is also how the track feels. And I have to say this is my favorite track to come from the Booster Course Pass yet. Mushroom Gorge is an easy 9 out of 10. And the final track of Wave 2 is Sky High Sundae. This track debuts in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, so there aren't any old versions to compare this to. I will admit I was nervous when this track was announced. I thought some colors were too saturated, and wouldn't mix well, and once again I was proved wrong. I actually enjoyed this track more than I thought I would. The track itself has plenty of detail, from the texture work, to even little shots along the sides. There are also a large amount of background elements, which I thought just wouldn't be there. This is another track that surprised me with how fun it is. However, when it comes to the gameplay, my main complaint is that just past the U-turn, you climb up and are given a bunch of blind jumps. You can't see where you're going to land and pretty much have to hope you land on one of the platforms. But with that issue aside, it's nice to receive an anti-gravity track after the other tracks not having a single bit of it. Bumping into things is pretty fun on this track, and the oval shape of it works really well. Here's the soundtrack. This soundtrack really gets your adrenaline pumping during intense moments, as this isn't the widest track. You may get stuck in a crowd on some slim parts of the track, so the music really sets in the right mood. Another great soundtrack from Nintendo, and Sky High Sundae gets a 7 out of 10 for me. And there is my review of Wave 2. I found this wave to be much improved over the first one, and this selection of tracks is great. What do you think? Let me know your favorite track in the comments below, and thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.